Hi pal, and welcome back. Today we will be going to BlumFest 2023 here at Cinemark at Universal Studios, and we'll get to see a screening of Megan as well as the Exorcist Believer. Let's go on inside. I'm wondering if for Five Nights at Freddy's if they will be doing anything special here as well, because I know that some theaters are going to be doing the Freddy Fazbear Pizza for some of the concession stands, so I'm hoping we get something like that here too. It seems like they're doing a lot of promo for Five Nights at Freddy's, so I'm also hoping that we get that next year at Horror Nights as well. There is a table over towards those doors, where we do have to go to check in for this event. It was supposed to start about 20 minutes ago, but it seems like they've just been getting everything in order. There's so many people here right now waiting in line, as is too. And here on the back side of our guest pass, we can see what the itinerary will be for the day. I, for one, cannot wait for that Q&A session because I think that's going to be the most unique experience that we do get today. I wonder who it's going to be with. So we finally found our seat. So what I love about what they're doing is that they're playing the Halloween Horror Nights music while everybody is loading into the theater and finding their own seats. Now, we won't be able to film too much in here while the movie is going on for very obvious copyright reasons, but we will be back at the next scheduled event, which I believe is going to be a photo op and free time for the event. So the immersive photo op is going to be inside of Fat Tuesdays here, right back there where that door is. I'm very curious to see what photo op opportunities they'll have inside. I'm hoping that we'll end up seeing Five Nights at Freddy's, but I feel like because of the movie choices today, it'll only be Megan and The Exorcist, but still, it's going to be really cool to see what they have in store for us. So we just got into the blumhouse photo op experience, and that was really, really cool. Like, I really hope that they bring all these photo op experiences back, possibly for Horror Nights next year, who knows? Of course, you know, we had The Exorcist and Megan, which was what we were expecting, but the fact that they had the Black Phone and Five Nights at Freddy's in there, that was a really welcomed surprise. Part of me kind of wishes that they had the animatronics for Five Nights at Freddy's, because we know that they have them because we've seen them over in Hollywood before, but still though, overall it was an amazing experience. Like I said, I hope that they bring that back. But our next event is actually going to be the Q&A session, which will start in about 10 minutes from now, so we're going to go ahead and hop on in line. I'm not sure how much they'll let us film in there. Hopefully all of it, but we'll see. I also thought I mentioned at the beginning when we did check into the event, we also got these really cool buttons. I got the cupcake one. I'm not sure if they're like Freddy or any of the other characters there, but still, it's a really cool, unique gift to give out, and I just love that they did it. I'm also hoping while we're waiting in line that we do not get rain dog, because this cloud does not look friendly right now. All right, so the time is 2:30. It's now our chance to go inside for the Q&A session.
Come on in, welcome. Have a great time.
Thanks for coming out. That was awesome, right?
Oh yeah.
My name is Kelsey. I'm going to be your host for today. So I need to ask, did you all see the Exorcist Believer film yet? No, you're doing it right after this, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So get very excited. We have some very special treats and special guests for you today. We're going to go ahead and start it off with some behind-the-scenes footage from the new movie, The Exorcist Believer. Just in case anyone doesn't know, can you please explain the job that comes with being a director of photography?
Sure. I'm Michael Simmons. I was the director of photography on this movie and a bunch of horror films. I'm in charge of designing the shots, choosing the lenses, placement of the lights, all that kind of stuff.
Very cool. So, okay, I'm going to ask Michael a couple of questions, and then we're going to go ahead and let you all ask a couple of questions as well. So be thinking about what you want to talk about. He has a very impressive resume. Just a couple include the 2018 Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, Paranormal Activity 2, and of course, The Exorcist Believer. So, out of all, yeah, you can applaud for that. We spoke a little bit about when you take on such large projects for your career, how that can be kind of an intense process. How do you combat the pressures of bringing these classics back to life?
I mean, it is not an easy task, and I take it very seriously, and I'm scared of you all. Because horror fans either love it or hate it, and very rarely feel anywhere in between. So I take it very seriously, and I try to do my best, and I know these are all polarizing films, and some people love them, and some people hate them, and some people love to hate them. but trust me that David and I try our hardest.
Yeah, speaking of love to hate, just because I thought this was a funny quote I found of you, when you were talking about capturing visuals for the film, that you believe color is a super important necessary evil that's beyond tedious and it brings and takes forever to perfect it. Would you want to elaborate on that as far as capturing the right color for a film and finding like the color scheme that works best and how that can be difficult?
Dario Argento is the horror color guy, okay? Suspiria and those things. So you can't think about horror lighting without Dario Argento. So you're always taking contrasting color. So, and it's kind of blended into modern storytelling, like that show with the high school show that everyone loves, that's out right now, I can't remember what it's called. Euphoria. They've kind of taken on that kind of horror thing where you take like a green and a gold, or you know, and you're looking at a color wheel and you're trying to take opposites and put them in. But the second the light, the color touches same parts, it looks horrible. So you're like, the blue has to come here, the orange has to come here, the gold has to be in the background. So that's what I was probably referring to in that interview.
Awesome. Okay, and you're saying specifically horror films, but something I love that you said is you wouldn't necessarily say The Exorcist Believer is a horror film, or maybe even more traditionally the classic Exorcist. You said it's a film with a lot of heart and a very sad story where it's particularly bringing in a demon aspect of it. How would you classify this Exorcist?
Well, when we talk about Exorcist Believer, we have to acknowledge the 78 film. So 78 film is ultimately a movie about a woman going through a traumatic event with a sick child who's having relationship problems with her husband, and then this horrible thing happens. And very gradually. It's not a slasher film. It's a movie that had major legs, that is everyone around the world knows Exorcist, because it's not just a horror film. It's a fantastic movie, like Jaws or something like that. And we try to, honor that tradition with our Exorcist movie, which is family in turmoil, real characters, and then we bring in a supernatural element to it.
Go ahead.
Here, my name is Teriyaki, pronouns are they, them. I guess my question is, if you've gone through the Exorcist Believer house, either here or in California, from your line of work, how are those houses built? Like, are they built from a perspective that you would use, or are they built from a completely different point of view?
I'm thinking about what you're saying. One, because I've never been to one of these houses. I've only heard about this. The house, the Halloween house, I've studied. Like, I know the staircase and where that closet is, where she's hiding and stuff like that, because we had to recreate that for Kills. And we actually built a replica of that house. I've heard amazing things about these scary houses, and I hope to go see it right after this.
Yeah.
The Exorcist house where the exorcism happened, I look forward to seeing, kind of, because the house doesn't really make sense. There's a door, we call it the spiritual door, that sometimes is a wall and sometimes is open in the movie. And we did it to kind of fuck with the audience a little bit, so you don't really understand, but more about houses, like the scene where Ellen goes into that, confronts the demon girl, that's like 3 different locations. The bottom floor is one place, the second floor is nothing. The staircase is real and was built. This room was real and then was built, for different reasons. And then we built I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a lot of trickeries.
Yeah, see, keep an eye out for the door that
The
comes
spiritual
and goes
door.
then. Very cool, that's a fun tidbit. Yeah, right over here.
How does what you do change when the focal point is children, child actors?
That's a great question.
Child actors. I mean, that's its own meaning. How do I do? There's like psychiatrists on the set and stuff like that. It's no joke. Also we couldn't have any smoke because of labor laws and children and stuff like that. You gotta tone down the language. it is the room. It doesn't change the room. Like when you have two 12-year-olds or however old they were, it's everything. And those girls, Chris Nelson does the makeup on these things, and he's Academy Award-winning makeup dude, and he has the closest relationship with them. Like, it probably takes 2 hours at least to kind of rough it in. I know it's not a specific answer, but it's tough.
Even the filming time, I'm sure, is...
Oh yeah, I don't want to bore you too much. Ellen, for her age, has her own demands as to how much we can film her. The kids have their own. The kids are on different clocks. So these two girls are back to back. I only get this one for 4 hours. I only get that one for 4 hours. I have to choose which shots I have them in the room at the same time, which is the stunt double, which is the photo double, all this stuff. And a lot of the cinematography is it's the logistics of figuring that kind of stuff out. Like, how much will I see this one in this one shot?
And then who's got to go to math class and whatever.
Oh, and then constantly getting taken out for about 15 minutes of math.
Hi, I'm Erin. Is it true that Linda Blair worked on the movie with the girls?
I've been advised not to comment.
No comment.
My apologies. Next question.
Hello, I'm Tom. You and David obviously worked on Exorcist and Halloween. Is there any other movie franchise that you would love to experiment on in the future?
These franchises are killing me. It's too difficult. I really want to not do a franchise. I can't deal with the polarization of fan base. It's a real challenge.
Your heart's probably had enough.
I mean, there's so much good heart. There's so much good. Like, Smile is awesome. Megan is awesome. Black Phone is not a horror. It's just a fantastic movie that has huge legs. Like, I know they're probably gonna make more of these things, but we're kind of in peak horror. You know, I mean, like, when I was a kid, there was not this many good scare-related films coming out, monthly. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Seriously, I remember seeing people under the stairs in the theater and those things. Those were like kind of a cult film, Carpenter's films were pretty, They Live and stuff. Those kind of cult. They did not have the fan base. I think the internet kind of really helped bring the fans together.
Absolutely. Social media and the internet, everything spreads so quickly. Everything is ubiquitous nowadays. Next question. We have one over here on the outside. Just coming behind you.
Hi there, I'm Brandon Heehan. Out of your entire body of work, is there a single shot that you are most proud of putting together?
The sequence in Halloween 2018 when Michael's in the insane asylum and that mask gets pulled out of the bag. That one works. We were scouting that location as a high school, for the locker scene, and me and David like to play a game, which is, I looked out there and I saw that checkerboard thing, and I said to David, what about that as the insane asylum? Because in the script it was written like Silence of the Lambs thing, like the darkest, deepest cave in the forgotten prison. I said, what if it was there? And he goes, you mean, he didn't get it. I said, pretend I have a gun to your head and you have to block that scene right now there. How would you do it? And we play this game often, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And then we just, for 30 minutes, jammed a scenario of the scene. Where would you put him? In the center. Where would the podcasters, where they were, come from? There. Would he be alone, or would there be other people? I think there'd be 5, and then we'd leave a location that was not meant to be scouted for that whatsoever, but created a much heightened, better version than was originally planned. And ultimately, it's just a guy holding a mask to the back of Michael Myers' head. That's fundamentally what's happening. But I remember watching it for the first time in the edit room and being like, man, this works. Does this heighten my sense of experience?
You brought it up and everyone nodded. It was like, yeah.
It was just a good sequence. Yeah.
We're very excited to introduce the incredible creative team that helps bring them all to life. You know them, you love them. Please put your hands together for our senior show director for Halloween Horror Nights, Charles Gray. Development Group and Show Direction, Laura Soul. And of course, Senior Director of Creative Development, Mike Aiello. Hey everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Howdy.
All right, so since we have Exorcist on the brain, I feel like we need to go ahead and start there. The Exorcist house this year. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the development and bringing that to life?
Of course, yeah. Developing Exorcist Believer was a really unique process. Probably one of the most unique we've had, maybe ever. Alone in the fact that the film was in production while we were designing, because we were kind of in tandem the entire time. We got the script. I got the script for the first time in July or August of 2022, and read it. Began just the very, very top line discovery of like highlighting moments in the script that we felt could be appropriate for our needs, because again, it is all about how do you adapt it correctly, because it is two very different mediums. And then I gave that script to Laura and Charles to also give their thoughts on and discover new things within it to try and really decipher how best to attack the creative process of this. Again, due to the fact that we only had a script and were only given photography as they were shooting the film.
Yeah, it was interesting to read the text or read the script, have an idea in your head of what it might look like, and then say like a week later get photographs on set from that, and you're like, okay, either sometimes we're like right on, like, yep, that's exactly how I pictured it, and other times you'd be like, oh, whoa, that's way different. So it was pretty interesting in how to lay it out. Because we already take, for any IP, we'll take maybe a massive scene and kind of crunch it down into that maze type format, tight and scary. But when you don't see anything right away, you're kind of guessing. So it was actually a good challenge. It was a lot of fun, and it was exciting to see daily those new photos drop in our files.
The other unique thing about this is knowing that the haunted house is going to debut well before the film releases. So there was an added challenge to really figure out what is the best way for a guest to engage an experience like this without giving the entire film away. Because if you've been to the event before, where we do IP or intellectual property houses, we like to try and give you the most we can of that brand, really beginning, middle, and end. Whereas this process definitely was, I think we've said it was kind of a living trailer for the film, so that anyone that walked through prior to today, when the film opens, gets enough of the energy and the texture and what the film is about without giving away a lot of the story and a lot of the surprises that end up developing throughout the course of those 3 acts of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of cool visual, we talked about some smells that are occurring in the house. What are some of your favorite unique elements in the Exorcist Believer house?
The smells, yeah, like you said, but we were laughing about it earlier. It's hard to contain smells. So we have a very specific scene, won't go into it, but it has a very specific smell. But it kind of permeates the scene before, so as you're getting ready to go into the scene, you're like, oh, I know what's coming up next.
And some of the lighting effects in this house are really cool. Who's been to the Exorcist Believer haunted house? Okay, so most of you, so spoiler for some of you who haven't, it's a small amount. In the second exorcism scene, the going into the demon world, the lights under the floor are so cool. And I think one of the first times we've ever done that. And I think that's a cool effect. Our lighting and effects team, our makeup and costuming team outdid themselves with this intellectual property. They too only had photos of what those girls would look like, what they would look like, as they were getting more demonic throughout the film. They only had photos, and our costume makeup team really outdid themselves on this.
And the characters are the star of the house. I mean, they're just awesome. They're awesome.
I'm Abby. So my favorite house this year, it's split between Yeti and Darkest Deal. What's your guys' favorite house?
For this year?
Yes.
I have a rule that I don't say my favorite house until the event's over with. It's just, I think, just for me personally, it's just my own personal rule, but it does change as the event goes too. So if you were to ask me today, I might have one, and then 2 weeks from now, I might be like, oh man, that was really hitting different tonight, you know?
I will say there's a moment in Yeti that I absolutely love. It is in the retirement scene, the campground. It is the shadow play of the Yeti ripping the dog's head off, and then ripping Grandma's head off, and then throwing it out the door. It's just dark comedy. Well done, Charles.
I love dark comedy.
I also follow that rule as well, but I will say my son's favorite house is Universal Monsters, this year's Universal Monsters.
Hi, Katie Shive. This is kind of more of a Mike question. I've been going to the event for like a million years. My dad started taking me when I was really young, probably too young. But how much did SS Titanic inspire Dueling Dragons with the dual ending? I'm just curious because that was one of my first years with the cargo split and the first class split. And
it didn't at all.
It didn't? Okay, I was curious.
Well, why she's saying SS Titanic is I was a character in SS Titanic that year. I was the captain of the ship. Yes, I started in a boo hole because I was doing Blues Brothers. I used to play Elwood Blues in the park, and I broke my foot. So they put me on a stool, and I was in a boo hole, going, horribly. Everyone does it much better now. And then when my foot healed, I was promoted to the captain of the SS Titanic. But it wasn't. No, honestly, Dueling Dragons was just about because there's 2 dragons, and you had to choose which dragon you were going to ride as part of the attraction. So that was the reason why. Right here.
So my personal favorite, like top 3 houses I just can't picture out is Monsters, not Dueling Dragons. Monsters, it's an amazing house, don't get me wrong. My top 3 are Monsters, Darkest Deal, and Yeti. Now, with those monsters, with those houses, how did you guys, I know those are not IP, but in most of the rankings I see, everybody loves those houses a lot, and I wanted to see, how did you guys get that, those, great creativity in those houses? Because Monsters last year was completely different than this year. But this year, I'm not gonna lie, I like it a lot more. So how do you guys not, not make it repetitive, I guess?
In the creative process, we have our senior designers in the creative room, we have our senior character designers in the creative room, we have our show directors in the creative room. And so we all throw out ideas, environments, characters, everything. For even this year for Monsters, we threw out every monster that we possibly could throw on that board, and which ones we hadn't really leaned into. And we felt the ones that we're doing this year, the Invisible Man, Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback, Jekyll and Hyde, we hadn't leaned into them before. So we felt that was the good ingredients, to put in that haunted house. But really, original content, that just comes from the crazy minds of that development team, and we love doing original content, right? So we love to create new stories. We never like to repeat, but when we repeat, we make new of what we've repeated, you know what I mean? So it's a cool process. It's a lot of crazy brains in that process. We have a lot of crazy ideas, but the one thing we like to say coming out of that process when we go into seeing the event come to life is we can't remember who had the idea because it was a truly collaborative room. And this will be our last one, okay?
Oh, really? Okay, all right.
Did a good one.
That was fast.
How often do you work side-by-side production when you're working on IP houses?
You mean with the film production?
Yeah, side-by-side.
So it varies. It varies based on the brand. So we've been doing brands a long time, and there really isn't one template because the parameters are usually different depending on what state that film or TV show is in. I guess the common denominator is we like to be involved as much as possible because we want to make sure that we are, so let's say, for the case of The Exorcist, we knew that the challenge and the opportunity we had was how do we create a haunted house that not only is scary and does everything we know a haunted house has to do in the event, but also is a great promotional aspect as well, because like I said, the first month of this event, no one has seen the film. But something like Stranger Things, for example, or if we'll keep this in the BlumHouse family, we'll say like Black Phone, that had come out, it existed. So those types of IPs become a study in what is resonating already. What are the fans of these films or these movies really loving, and how can we best, to really boil it down to something minimal, is how can we box check as much as possible expectations of what a fan, that's all of us, of these properties are, and what do they want to see in these attractions. And then you then have a ratio of like, 80% of what you know these fans want to see from an experience like that, and you go 20%, here are some surprises. Here are some things that you're not expecting. How can we catch you off guard? How can we present something in a way that you wouldn't believe that we pulled it off that way? I would, for example, for this year, if we're using a major brand, I think besides Exorcist, because no one would know what's going on until they see the movie, Stranger Things, the Eddie sequence with the trailer and the presentation of that, being able to see that live in that manner. Everybody knows the scene, but has never seen it from that perspective or that close, So it's things like that. And like I said, it varies because every brand is different. And also their asks. Sometimes the brands will come to the table saying, we really want to follow these types of instances. We would love for you to achieve these types of things. And then we collaborate on that. We try and figure out how best to achieve their needs as well, because we're working for them too. We've got a lot of people that want the best out of the product. Us, the brands, you all. So we're taking all of those things into consideration as we move through that process to ultimately present what we feel is the best product possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much again for your time. Everyone, please remember to have our Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Awesome. All right. Are you all excited to go see The Exorcist? Is that what you're doing next on your itineraries? Have you already done the photo opportunity thing? You did? Okay, yeah, you're getting ready to go in. Good luck. Have fun. Don't forget, the director of photography, Michael Simmons now. All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming out to BlumFest 2023. Appreciate you being here. Have so much fun.
All right, now we're headed back to Cinemark to see The Exorcist Believer. I can't wait for this movie. Okay, so we're back in the car now. The Exorcist just ended, and so did BlumFest with that. It was so much fun. Like, BlumFest itself was a really, really cool event that I hope they do again next year. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The different photo ops were really cool to see. I hope that next year they're a little bit more interactive than what they were this time, but still, the fact that we got to do it was really, really cool. And the Q&A session was really cool. It was really informative. It was amazing to hear people in the industry talk about how they put on the event, the thought process that goes into them. Everything was just so well thought out and well planned for the event itself. I really enjoyed it. Plus, it was a free ticket, so how could you not enjoy it? I really enjoyed Megan too. I had never seen the movie before. I put it off for a while because it just seemed a little too camp for me. It just seemed a little goofy, but I loved it. The scares were really good for it. I thought that the jokes and the funny parts of the movie were really well placed. Overall, I really enjoyed the movie. I'd give it probably a solid 7, 8 out of 10. It was a good movie. Now, The Exorcist, after walking through the house so many times and trying to figure out the story as we've gone through, completely was not what we had thought it was. The movie was so well done. I really enjoyed it. There were some parts about it where I felt like it could have been expanded on more, some of the character backstories, I suppose, or at least some of the characters that were introduced. But still, overall, I loved that feeling of something just doesn't seem right. Something seems a little ominous. The scares are really well placed. The music was incredible. Everything about it was just amazing. And after hearing the Q&A sessions on how they thought out the movie and how they planned things out, it just added so much more to it. But yeah, I really hope that they do BlumFest again next year, because I really want to bring Carissa to it. She wasn't able to come today, unfortunately, just because of work issues. But still, overall, incredible event. Thank you, BlumFest. Thank you, Universal. Like, it was amazing. I cannot wait to come back again. And at the very end of the event, they gave us these free Five Nights at Freddy's t-shirts, which are really cool because, I mean, one, it was a free ticket to get into the event, but then two, just to hand this out for free at the end, it was such a nice touch. With that said, though, we are out for the day. And just one last thing before we go, you look great, by the way.